Hi, everybody, and welcome to Dublin Tech Talks appreciation with Icon Accounting. Super excited on a personal note to be doing a show like this today. I'm talking with Seán O'Connor, who's co-founder of StatSports. StatSports is one of the world-leading GPS tracking systems. GPS technology tracking is used for live data and dealing with some of the world's largest sporting brands. It sells to 20 countries worldwide, and recent product innovations is moving into the amateur sports. So as a GPS sports fan, I'm really excited to have a talk to Seán today. Hope you enjoy. Seán O'Connor from StatSports, welcome to Dublin Tech Talks. Great to see you.
Thanks so much, Gavin. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So GPS technology, tracking devices, sport started, 2006, 2008. Did you think the business would be where it is now? Did you think the demand for sports stats would be what it is?
Yeah, if I said to you, right, we had a plan in 2008 and to do exactly what we've done now, I'd be lying to you. It'd be a great story to say this is what we had envisaged, but no, it's not. We started into this in 2008, myself and Alan Clark, and it was a accidental conversation on the side of a football pitch in Ballurgan watching a match, and yeah, we fell into it, stumbled into it, but then realized we got into something that was very in its infancy in terms of GPS. So yeah, the timing was very, very good from that point of view. But yeah, we didn't plan this, but as we were going along and evolving, we realized that the opportunity was there, that if somebody's going to make a mark in this, then why not us?
And what was the conversation on the side of the pitch? I hear a lot of founder stories about we saw a problem and we wanted to fix it. Was it more of a, no, I really want to know how knackered these guys are and let's figure it out?
Yeah, it was. Well, I was having a conversation with another guy who's involved with the Meath District League. It's now the North Eastern Counties League, and just having conversations around my background. I had just come back from studying. I'd done a degree in a postgraduate diploma in sports injury, sports science, and that type of thing. So I was having a bullshit with Jerry Gorman, and Alan interrupted the conversation, and he at the time was managing a team in the Meath District League. Clonmere, I think, they'd won the league. He was managing the MDL team, the select team, and I think he won't admit it, but I think at the time his motives were more around, well, maybe I can get Seán and leverage what he's doing here for my teams, as opposed to let's make a business out of this. But then once we had a couple of conversations, did a bit of research into what was available, what was out there. Initially, our model was we were almost like a reseller distributor for a couple of products. So from GPS was one of them, to speed gates and different sports science. We had this vision of supplying, I suppose, a one-stop shop sports science solution to clubs and teams within Ireland. So they're very limited in terms of number of professional teams. So we said that no one can afford to buy these products right now. So if we can buy them and then service teams and lease them, with my background going into these teams with it. So that was the initial concept, which changed quite drastically.
And 08, 09, nobody was really talking about GPS or sports stats. And like, I only came onto it probably in the last 5 years when I got my first running watch, and being able to see how your heart rate is going, how your training effects are, everything that goes with that. How was that, the education part from that? Obviously, I was at Leinster Rugby, were one of your first people in and the education must have been one of the harder parts, or even just getting people to buy into the facts that you can show when people are about to break or when they're at their max kind of velocity and areas like that.
Yeah, I often say when we were going to teams and to demonstrate the product and to explain it, I found myself pointing at the sky and saying it's GPS and it's coming from here, because you're explaining the concept and how it works. And often people, even you think back then, you had a sat nav in your car that you stuck to your windshield that you didn't necessarily have. We don't have now. It's in the cars. So even GPS in your phone, even maps in your phone wasn't even quite novel at that time, or it wasn't as advanced as it is now. But yeah, there was an education around the concept of what it can do, and then how we take that and apply it. Whereas now it's commonplace. And the main thing is now explaining, well, how we can make it better, how we can make it more applicable, how we can make it specific to your sport and tailored and to customize to your needs. But back then there was, without question, this concept of, well, educating what this, because it was a new industry.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, I was guessing everybody do know, it's the GPS packs are the ones in the back of the vest. Yeah.
Yeah, you tend to see the little black man bras, sometimes you could call it. It's worn male, female, multi-sports. If we're watching the rugby at the weekend, say for example in the Ireland match, you see the little bump on the back. So they have a little pocket that's actually stitched and designed into their shirts. So yeah, that's the people. It's referred to as a GPS device, but there's GPS is one of the elements in there. It's key, of course, and it allows us to get distances and speeds, and it can record up to 18 times per second using on the GPS. But then it has things like accelerometers. So when you flip your phone around and the screen changes, that's the accelerometer in the phone. That's in terms of being able to look at so an accelerometer, gyroscope, magnetometer allows you to look at orientation and movement. So our accelerometer can go up to 1,000 times per second. And what it can do is it measures every time so it's sitting on your back when you go up and down, or side to side movement, and even front to back. So it can tell us things like high resolution information about your running style. So if you're placing more weight on your left side than your right side, or if you've slightly deviated from what is normal for you. That same tech is then used in rugby to measure the contacts and the G-force and tackles and hits. We can identify when scrums happen and things like that. So it's referred to globally as a GPS device, but there's a lot of high resolution equipment inside in that device to allow us to process that data, but also to be able to see it and get it live as well.
So your business in essence is a hardware business and a software business.
Depending on who's asking, there's hardware, there's tech, there's software, there's a whole SaaS element to it. And data is a huge part of what we do. There's obviously sports is at the core of it from a sports science perspective, and conditioning and understanding the performance side. So it's multifaceted, and you wear different hats, but ultimately, from the hardware, from the data perspective, from the hardware perspective, the tech, we can't stand still. It's cliche, but from that tech perspective, we have to keep striving to improve it, to get better, new iterations, and being pushing that boundaries ourselves instead of waiting for someone to do it. If we wait too long, someone can pass us out. So that's a big driver in what we do as well.
I was going to come to innovation in a while, but we'll jump into that. The product clearly is different now to where it started. And you've mentioned already there that if you stand still, you're going to be overtaken. Wearables or sports tech. It's a highly valuable industry. I was reading there, it's what, nearly $5 billion they're saying that the industry is worth. So innovation for yourself. You launched your new product line last year, from what I saw. What's at the core of your innovation? Is it the player? Is it the technology? Is it a combination of both? Because I know you have some high profile kind of, what would you call them, sponsors or users of your product, and I'm guessing they're heavily involved within your product evolution.
Well, the client is generally at the core of what as we evolve. From the very beginning, when we decided we were going to build our own tech, we got we established clients using various bits and pieces of technology that were already out there. And then we said, well, if we're going to come at this and do our own product, we got guys from the likes of Leinster Rugby, Ireland and England Rugby at the time, guys from Manchester United, Arsenal and Tottenham. And we all sat around a table at a hotel in London and said, right, if we're going to do this, how do you guys want this part to look, and how does this need to feel? Because you're ultimately the end user. So blank canvas, how would you change this, and how can we make this better? From simple things like reporting at the time, come back. So we launched our first technology in 2012. And things that we did then that nobody else was doing was just making it so much easier to report, be able to click 2 clicks and get a PDF report, color coded based on where players are in relation to where you expected them. So that evolution is going to now our Sonra software, and it's a combination of the intelligence of the hardware, and then how this software can interrogate that to display it in it. It can't be you can't show a manager a CSV file or Excel. He doesn't have the time or the space to be able to do that. And sport is a really emotional. You've got small windows after a game. If you've won, you might have it's a bit more relaxed. If you haven't, then you can't spend hours or days waiting on feedback because you've already started to look at the next game or the next training. So a big part of our thing that we were always aiming to do was to be able to establish and to deliver live data that was of a quality that you can make decisions in games, in training, and be comfortable that the data is accurate. So we developed our Sonra and our Apex device to be able to calculate the data on the pod itself. So the processing ability needed to do that is phenomenal. So, but we can calculate the data on the pod on the player's back, and it's then sent via ultra wideband. If you take an example at most of the top training grounds in the Premier League, we will have beacons set up so that they can just walk around. They could have multiple iPads that are picking up the data live and are able to report and feedback. You have an example where players are, say, doing rehab, and the fitness coach wants them to do 5 sprints at 70% of your max, and they can straight away say, yeah, you've done those. Okay, now let's move on to this. So having live data is crucial in being able to make decisions at the right times instead of waiting till afterwards and then going, oh, well, if I hadn't known that at the time, we might have changed something.
Yeah. You must be hated by anybody coming through rehab in a professional sports setting. There's no hiding place anymore.
There isn't, and often because now you can look at it on a watch. You can have the fitness coach who's rehabbing a player could be running with them, and he can see the guy's data coming through on their watch, so we can see exactly there and then what they're doing. But there is this, and very early days, players were very much, what is this? It's a big brother, and it's going to be making sure we do enough. A lot of times at the very top level of sport, it's trying to make sure that they don't do too much. And that you're trying to make sure that when they cross that line on game day, that they're best prepared to do that. That might mean tweaking it to do a little bit more, a little bit less on certain days, making sure you get enough sprints in, making sure you get enough different types of work. So it's not just this concept of it's a big brother watching to make sure everybody runs enough or sprints enough. It's evolved and become like coaches will have plans over from like periodizing the training sessions for the individuals, for groups, per position, and so on. And at its basic level, our device will give you the feedback to allow you to see, did you do what you expected? Did you get what you expected to get from that session? So it's normally very well received from players who are playing at the elite level are competitive. That's why they're there. By in their nature, they want to win and they want to be the best they can be. And they all know that if something can give them even a couple of % advantage and an edge and improvement, then they generally accept that with open arms. So it's quite good.
Yeah, you read people like Paul O'Connell's books and sports sites, they always look for those small gains. Mm-hmm. And this type of technology 100% are those gains. You've rolled this out to the amateur setting with your wearables and areas like that. I was watching one of your launch videos and the training of somebody running beside you. Has there been a good uptake on the amateur side, and is it for every type of amateur, or is it a kind of an elite amateur you're aimed at?
No, it's for every amateur. Anybody who changes their clothes to go and play a sport, there's a value in doing this. In my eyes, so it's been really successful. We sold to over 90 countries worldwide, and it's ultimately, if you think about, as I knock over my phone now, that's going to be good. If you think about the people who now go out, and I'm not one of them, but I'd love to be someone who's really into running, into cycling, triathlon, the individual sports. Like there's a huge swell of people into that individual athletics, individual sports, and they monitor themselves. Cycling have been, I suppose, way ahead of a lot of team sports years ago in heart rate monitoring and things like that. So this is established, and you'll see people now at the weekend out cycling, out running, and they'll be spending a lot of money.
I'm unfortunately one of them. Yeah,
you are.
Unfortunately, one of them. Yeah, I'm one of those runners in the morning.
And what do you use? You use a Garmin, or you use something that you'll be tracking what you're doing?
Garmin.
Yeah. So
and it's changed how I run. It's changed how I for the last couple of years when I was playing Saturday football, I would try and wear it, but obviously you can't. you're not allowed, so you'd have to wear your long sleeve and you try and track it.
Yeah.
And I was amazed by the output sometimes, and so maybe the lack of output after a few times, but you can see how that works for a setting where you're trying to, especially be or a high impact sport where where the person is in red, and like they're commodities in an essence. People, these professional sports stars, you don't want to injure a prized asset. So see we're hitting high heart rates and like it, I can see the value of it as a bad runner. So I can only imagine the more kind of finely tuned runners can see the advantage.
But it's everywhere in running and cycling, and it's not just for the elite kind of or sub elite weekend warrior in running or cycling or any of that. It's for everybody, because it's about improving yourself compared to yourself. So when you think about that, and it's consumed that individual sports space, but then you look at soccer from kids through to ourselves who have played soccer into their mid-30s, for example. That is, so at every level of soccer, football, throughout from the pros right down, the monitoring, it's a key part of what they do. You take the young kid now who's aspiring to get to that level. If they were aspiring to be a cyclist, they'd be monitoring themselves as they're out cycling. If they're wanting to be a runner or Olympic runner, they'd be monitoring themselves. Yet these aspiring Premier League, international soccer players aren't doing it yet, but they will. It's starting to take control, and people are really starting to. We can see it in our athlete series. Is now starting to really get out there, and it's a natural evolution whereby it's going to become the norm. The kids will be putting on their boots, the shin guards, putting on the GPS, and then going out to play. I've seen it. We've seen it at the elite end when we first went to academies, whereby the first team had it at an academy. And I remember going into the kids then, and they were like, wow, this is the best. And this is so exciting. And I remember having a conversation. It was probably around 2011, 2012, and saying to the guys then that this is so novel to them, but this will become the norm as they'll put on the GPS as easily as they put on the shin pads. They don't forget the shin pads going out to play football. They won't forget the GPS. And that has happened in that elite level right down through the academies. And that will happen as we look at the kids now playing football, because they're more accustomed to data than I probably am at my age. They play FIFA. They'll be more au fait with formations and style of play and high presses and all this kind of stuff, because they're just, their world is data now, from gaming to and everything they do. So this is only another step into that space, and kids looking at that on their phone. Here's what I did today in a game, and being able to share that with their parents as well, being able to look at where they're evolving and how they're, as they grow up and as they mature. It's moving that way.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? It's
hopefully
to be young again. So, like the business where you are now, 2018, you ventured to the States. You got your big deal with the US Soccer Fed. You're in a lot of the NFL sports teams. I think I heard you talk about going into South America as well and different areas like that. What is, how's the States been? I'm guessing they've absorbed this extremely quickly and can see the benefits straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a presence at the US for a number of years, and we've probably only started to ramp things up even in the last 18 months to 2 years, based on kind of the opportunity that's there. It's as a collective, as the US, and it's a general statement, they are very stats heavy, stats crazy. So this should fit in their wheelhouse. Over the years, the big concept, you look at the likes of NFL, it's a closed sport. You run a play, you expect an outcome, it happens, it doesn't, you can analyze it. It's very, the bedrock of their analysis for years has been on that video side of things, being able to analyze plays and being able to prepare and analyze opposition. And that's a key part of it. So the natural evolution to add on to that was then the athlete readiness and preparedness side of things. So being able to have that, so not only have them tactically astute, but being able to have them physically ready to be able to carry out the tactics and demands of the game. So from American football through basketball and even lacrosse at university level and things like that, like it's really starting to take hold. But football or soccer out there it's probably set up like no other national setup, in the sense that the development academies. I often say every time, and I haven't been out obviously with COVID now in about well over a year, but every time I go out, it seems to stumble upon another club that has like a club that you and I, the equivalent of a club that you and I could play for here. I play for Ballurgan here, just outside Dundalk, and a couple of hundred members maybe, and kids maybe 300-400. You go out to, and there might be 10,000 at a particular club, and it's set up very differently out there. That the registration, the membership, you'd struggle to get £5 off lads for the referees of the weekend here, 2 or 3 quid. Whereas out there, it's set up in such a way that it's a part of what to do, and it's quite high in terms of registration fees and costs for kids to attend soccer clubs. So it's a whole world, and it's very set up very differently to here. You don't have, to the extent that you have into the Premier League academies. The MLS are now coming down that way very, very well, but there are loads of big setups outside of the professional ones, and there's just a world of I think it's the fastest growing participation sport in the US. So it's having the likes of the Premier League, having the US national team, the Liverpools, Man United, Man Cities, but the Brazils as well, having all those, it just validates us then going into space like the US.
Yeah, definitely. And the gamification of stats as well. I'm guessing the kids at that underage level would be, I ran faster than you. I say it to my own mates when I'm doing a few runs, I
was just going to say, the kids that, even if you went to any Premier League, Leinster Rugby, or you went to any rugby setup, I guarantee you after every session, there's always somebody asking, well, what was my speed, and did I beat him? Did I beat her? That's the like that innate competitive nature in sports people. This fuels it as well, and fuels you to get better, but to get better compared to your friends, to your peers. And what the Athlete Series allows you to do is it allows you to create communities, create groups, create squads or leagues. So I can create a little mini league table, and I can add all my friends, so I can see where I am placed in respect to them on any given week, from week to week, month to month. And you can compare yourself then to people of your age group at a national level, or even to say the pros, for example. So it always getting you the benchmarks, and then how to get there as well.
Really interesting. I'll let you go soon. Don't worry. I'll talk about this stuff all day. But just in relation to your business, and something that I think few people be interested in. It's it doesn't seem like you've made many mistakes, but of the mistakes that you've done, or how your business has grown over the last while, how has that been? Has it been organic? Did you go for funding? I know Invest NI were heavily involved, and other kind of businesses like that. What has kind of been your experience in that growth stage and bringing the business to where it is today?
Well, we've definitely made tons of mistakes, and there's no denying that. And I doubt there's a business out there that hasn't made mistakes, and that's probably where it's cliche, but that's where you learn the most things, from your mistakes as opposed to the successes. But yeah, we've the vast majority of our growth has been bootstrapped. It's been done ourselves. It's been done organically, and we could ask 10 people, and we'll have a complete split on. Some people will say that's a good way to go. Other people will say you should raise money and go quicker and all that. But there's a timing is a huge part of what we do. So we've been really, really happy with our evolution to date. We've raised money. Invest NI, as you mentioned, have been fantastic support throughout the years. So the money we raised recently over the last 12 to 18 months has been, as I termed it before, strategic investment. It's not just a check coming from some sort of faithless organization. It's coming from individuals and athletes, and we've mentioned them, the likes of Raheem Sterling, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and Phil Foden, for example, at Man City, he's just going to be, or he already is, a superstar. So there's more to come as well that we're going to kind of discuss quite soon. But those guys, they've been wearing them from when they were kids at academy levels at Liverpool and Arsenal, and Phil Foden at City, and they've evolved with this technology. So it's second nature to them. So when we get chatted to them, they can see how it applies to them and how it's so valuable to what they're doing. And I think one of them, I think Alex said that if he had the ability to wear this even pre-academy level, that if he was able to talk to a young version of himself and said how valuable this is going to be. So they can see, they get it, because it's a big part of the decision making around their availability day to day and their preparation. So they can see how this will apply and spread out through the kids. So for those guys to come and to invest in our business is huge, and they're doing it because they understand it's not just a tick box for them. They can see it and they want to be involved, and we're delighted to have them on board.
Well, it sounds a very exciting time. It really is. And I'm guessing you've already mapped out the next 12, 24 months, and kind of you have projections that are going very, very hockey sticks.
Yeah, that's the plan. Hopefully it pans out. You can make plans, you make projections. I suppose we've probably surpassed a lot of the stuff we've laid out for ourselves in the past. That we go beyond where we've set our targets. Hopefully we can do something similar over the next 12, 18 months. It's exciting. We've probably built the last 13 years, and we've built a platform which now allows us to kick on. There's a great base now, good solid base. There's a great team of people, and we've probably put ourselves in a position for that jump. And hopefully now we can see the light at the end of the tunnel with COVID and things like that as well, that will allow us to kick on.
It's amazing. You've moved from the side of a football pitch locally to boardroom or meetings with international superstars. It's an amazing journey, and congratulations so far, Seán. It's great to talk to you, and thanks for your time, and best of luck over the next few years.
Thank you very much, Gavin.
So that was Seán O'Connor from StatSports, an amazing business, amazing product, something, as you can probably tell, something I'm very interested in. But I hope you enjoy. We'll be bringing you some more podcast meetups over the next while. Stay tuned, subscribe, follow us on LinkedIn, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.